G'day there, guys. Pete Moriarty here, and I'm coming to you live, restreaming an interview that I did last week with Karen Moloney from Blue Bean Media. Now, I covered some pretty cool stuff in this interview, which is why I am resharing it with you now, including the 3 C's of the ultimate remote work technology stack. So I'm going to be taking you through what is the actual tech that you need to get set up for remote work, to make sure that your team are productive for remote work. And I cover some other cool stuff in the interview, like working from home, making sure you don't fall into any of the traps for new players, and how do you manage your culture of your team? How do you keep them motivated? How do you make sure they're not burning out as you're working with remote work? So that's going to come up in just a moment. Now, the reason why we're focusing on tech stack is this week we are in week 3 of our remote work technology playbook. Our remote work playbook, it's covering not just tech, but all areas of business. And that is a private course. And so what we're sharing is kind of teasers on social media. The actual course is an in-depth 8-week webinar series, of which we are on week 3. So if you're interested in getting access to that, check out the links down below, get in touch with our team and have a chat about getting access to the remote work playbook. If you've been enjoying the content that we've been sharing so far, you will enjoy the deep dives that we're going into in the playbook. We're sharing the systems, the processes, literally what we do to run our company internally, as we have a remote team of over 35 people. So if that's interesting to you, check it out. But in the meantime, this interview with Karen Moloney is coming up next, covering the 3 C's that you need for your remote technology stack. Enjoy it, and I'll catch you after the break.
Hi there, and welcome to another Facebook Live. Today, I'm Karen Moloney from Blue Bean Media, and today I'm talking to Peter Moriarty from IT Genius. Hi, Peter.
G'day, how you doing?
Good, thank you. So we're going to have a good chat today about working remotely and making the most out of this cloud situation and getting people collaborating online. And I know you've got a really nice big remote team that you work with yourself in your business. So maybe you can just give people a bit of a background about you and your company and what you do.
Sure thing. I started as a kidpreneur, IT consulting. I was 15 years old, and I'm actually still running that business. So when I was 20, I left school, started the official business. That was 11 years ago. It's grown multiple millions, recurring revenue, 35 employees. Everyone's remote and works at home. What the business actually does is help small business owners typically be more flexible with their work. So we implement technology for small businesses. We work a lot with
Yep.
Google. So we're top reseller for Google in Australia. And what we do is we help small teams get started with working remote, or we help businesses get their stuff all synchronized and talking to each other. Or if, for someone who's more savvy and is maybe already set up on the Google platform, we help them accelerate with CRM systems, getting apps talking to each other with integrations, or dashboard reporting if they want to get their data out of Xero on a nice big dashboard, put it on a TV in the office. We help with all that kind of stuff.
That sounds so cool. I would love that. uh, so we thought we'd have a chat here because obviously everybody's been forced into this remote working situation. I mean, for people like you and I, that's not a big deal because that's how we generally work. I mean, my team, I've been running remote teams for 13 years, kind of onshore, offshore. And we understand that it's not as easy to get a Zoom account, is it? It seems to be the trend at the moment. Everyone's on Zoom, and there's talk of Zoombies and people getting fatigued from Zooms and stuff like that. But it's not just about the online meetings part of it. There's lots of tools available to help you actually work and collaborate properly as a team. So if this is new for a business, what would you consider that business owners need to be thinking about in terms of those online tools? What do they really need to start working collaboratively online?
Yeah, look, there's. Would you like me to go through like the people and process side of things, or jump straight into the technology? Because there's kind of there's two parts to it there.
Yeah, let's start with the people and process, because I think that's something, again, people, I tend to find people, when they have a problem, they look for a tool to solve the problem. And that's not always the answer. But, if you don't make the right decisions, you get the wrong tool. So maybe let's start with the people and process.
Sure. So number one is the Bible, and that's a book called Remote, Office Not Required. It's written by the guys who started Basecamp, and it's super short, super digestible, and it's just like one-page chapters on all the things you've got to get right when you're running a remote business. Now, some of those things are, if you want to go international, making sure there's a certain amount of hours overlap and other bits and pieces there. But that's like the thing to get started with. What I would say is, the best way to run your business remotely is to not change too much in terms of your processes. You need to find a way to virtually have Friday night drinks. You need to find a way to virtually do your one-on-ones and provide a safe and vulnerable space for someone to have a cry when they've got shit going on outside of work.
Mhm.
You need to work together to make sure that you're still doing cultural work and strategic planning together as a team, the kind of things that you would normally do in an office, yet you're now remote. One of those things is just having time to actually kick back and chit chat, jumping on a meeting without any agenda, because everything seems to just have an agenda now. It's like a Zoom meeting here and a Zoom
Mm.
meeting there, and it's on our calendar and it's scheduled. We do this, we do that. But particularly if you've got larger teams and you're not working with everyone every day, you need to also have that idle chit chat time. And so, sometimes it's something as simple as, jumping on a Hangout or a Zoom and spending a couple of hours just co-working with someone,
Mm.
and spending time with them without any particular agenda. So I'd say the most important thing is to continue to run things as you do. But what you need to do is find ways, all the things that you would normally have in an office, you need to find ways to do them virtually.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it's that the water cooler chit chat, and all the things that you tend to find out, and then those things can sometimes be the things that spark an idea, or solve a problem, or whatever it might be in a business, and it's just so valuable, isn't it?
Absolutely. One of the most important things that we do is it's called TGIT. Thank God it's Thursday. Don't know why that is. It just started on a Thursday and it's stuck. But that's every 2 weeks. And so it's an hour and a half hangout. We get everybody together and we play games. We talk crap. If there's anyone
Mhm.
new in the company, they will actually be introduced, and they have to do a talent show. That's mandatory. So, we've had
Okay,
some people
no
sing,
pressure.
one person rapped, someone did magic tricks, and but that's basically our version of our Friday night drinks. So our team are
Mm.
geographically distributed, and we've been that way for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that we kind of get everyone together on a social hangout. And so if right now you've been doing everything in an office and you've just switched to having to do things remotely, that's like number one, having that scheduled social hangout. Have someone be responsible for games or activities. Pick something different every week. You can do charades, you can
Mhm.
do Zoom. You can do Pictionary. We've put some ideas up on our channel of remote games that you can play with your team when you're not together
Mm.
geographically. That's going to be one of the best places to start.
Awesome. Um, tools.
Tools. Okay,
Tools.
three C's. Three C's.
Yep.
Coordinate, communicate, connect. I'll go through connect
Okay.
first. So
Mhm.
connect is like the basics. You need chat. You need video. You need text chat, like instant messaging. You need video chat. And then you need somewhere to like dump all your stuff, right? Now, obviously, we're a Google business. So for us, it's Google Drive, it's Google Chat, and Google Meet. All of those
Mhm.
tools work together nicely. But you could just as easily use Microsoft Teams or Dropbox or whatever other hobbledy of different applications, Zoom, put them all together and make that work. That's how you
Mhm.
actually need to get your stuff done, right? Most businesses, at least businesses that have started in the last 5 years, are probably pretty savvy with using cloud-based storage and cloud-based tools. So you're probably pretty good there. Even the
Mm.
more established businesses have been shifting with our help over the last kind of 5 years to this kind of more modern cloud world. Now you've got to have them as a baseline. Next up is coordinate. So coordinate is more how are you going to coordinate the work that you're doing to deliver to your customers. So I speak from a professional services background. CRM system and customer database is absolutely vital for us because that's like the
Mm.
source of truth for everything that we're doing. We
Yep.
use and recommend an application called Copper CRM. And then tasks. Oh my God, tasks is the biggest one. So we use and recommend Asana, but there's all kinds of different apps out there. Podio, Teamwork, Trello, pick your flavor, it doesn't matter. The most important
Mm.
thing is that you have a policy on how you use it and that you actually use it. Now, the most important thing and the most powerful thing about using a cloud-based task management system like Asana is that it reduces the noise. When you're using instant
Mm.
messaging all day long, oh my God, there's noise. And it's interruption station. Just imagine if you were sitting at your desk trying to do your work and someone walked into your office every 3 seconds. That's what chat is like, especially when you start to grow out your team. We've got a large team. It just gets absolutely out of control. And so what tasks allow you to do is communicate effectively in threads, but it allows you to have things like deadlines and recurring tasks and subtasks and a real solid project coordination outside of email and outside of instant messaging. Those two
Yeah.
are killers for productivity, whereas an effective task management system does really well. Now, we love Asana because the first 15 users per team are free. So that's a great place to start. Really easy to use, awesome app. One of the early engineers at Facebook actually founded it, and they got a bunch of money from VC firms and everything else. So great app there. Number 3 is communicate. And communicate is about how do you communicate with your customers? Now you're working remotely. It's not just a matter of picking up the desk phone because you might have to work remotely. So do you need a phone, a cloud-based phone system? We have one of those that we supply and implement. It's called Dialpad, which is really cool. Runs on your computer or your phone. Wherever you are, you get a local number. But you need some way of contacting your customers. Don't fall in the trap of picking up the mobile, because if you are chained to your mobile, or you're giving out your mobile number to everyone, that's mistake number 1 in business, because then you're always on call to all of your customers. And so if you want to remove, everyone's done that. Everyone's been freelancer. I did that as well. But if you can remove yourself from the mobile and give everyone a business number to access, then no matter where you are, you can contact. The final one is email. Most people do most of their communication back and forward with customers from their email account. But that starts to fall down in a team environment, particularly if you're a business that has a high volume of customer inquiries, or you're trying to, maybe you have more than one staff member servicing one client or one customer, and you need to really collaborate on your communication. Now, what ends up happening is you have these big email threads and you get stuck in email all day. Whereas if you switch to a collaborative inbox, in the IT world, we would call it like a ticketing system, like Zendesk or something like that. But if you're a small business and you don't need something that sophisticated, then a shared label or a shared inbox system where you can have one email address that's going back and forward to your customers. Ours is help@itgenius.com. Yours can be service at or info at or sales at or whatever. And being able to have multiple people peer into that mailbox and put internal notes on there. Hey, I'm just going to run this report before I send this to the customer, and everyone to see each other's communication back and forward to the customer. And your customer has one email address to remember. Makes it a great experience for your customers, but really great for you to coordinate what you're delivering to them as well. So 3 C's: connect, coordinate, communicate. They're the 3 different categories of tools that you need to bring it all together and operate really. And it's not just to operate as a remote team. It's really to operate as a team to deliver really well to your customers.
Yeah, because I think that's probably one thing that people will be missing, is that last point around who's doing what for the clients, and things can get missed. And I mean, I'm a big Asana user myself. I have been for a number of years now, and I just love, like you say, it kind of takes away the noise from what you're doing. Like when I go in there, I can see the conversations that are happening around a specific task, and it allows me to manage my time, because something like, I've never used Slack. I have an account on there for a couple of things that I dip in and out of every now and again, but I'm quite focused in how I work. So I work in chunks of time, and the idea of somebody being able to ping me whenever they feel like it just does not excite me in the slightest.
And I leave it off. Like, I leave it off and I check it once or twice a day, just like I do with email. If it's something absolutely urgent, someone might reach out to me individually, but it better be urgent. Otherwise, it really should be in Asana. And that comes down to, like, what policy do you have inside your company for how you use these tools? You need to set if you're the business owner, you need to set the policy, you need to set the tone and say, hey, this is how we use Asana. It's for everything that's not urgent. If you need to get me, you can ping me on chat, but it better be the equivalent of busting in my door and interrupting what I'm doing.
And I think that's really important as well. Like you say, don't change what you do, just change the way you're doing it in terms of with the tools and stuff, because it is, people, when they get online, they behave differently, and they don't realize that that's what it's actually doing to you. So again, like that processes, and people
like Facebook,
really understand.
Hey, you around? And then that gets translated into the work chat.
No, crazy.
And we all become like ADD burnout victims because that's where it leads to. And I've got a young team. We're millennials, we're the Facebook generation, and so it seems kind of pretty normal. But we've had to really push back against that habit and say, no, guys. You need to not allow yourself to get on that hamster wheel of everything is urgent and everything is right now. Otherwise, it's burnout, and people just burn out. Like, we see it happen all the time. I've been around long enough to see the signs when someone's getting there and they just completely burn out. And that's, I guess, what I worry about, the first couple of weeks to the first month of everyone working at home. It's like, yay, I've got Zoom and I'm sitting at the kitchen table and look how productive I am.
And you never
But
switch
then,
off.
the boredom and the cabin fever and everything else starts to set in, and the loneliness. And so you've got to make sure that the tech tools are important, but as I mentioned earlier, doing the social things and making sure that you're doing everything else around supporting your team are absolutely critical.
Absolutely. So what, I mean, we've already touched on a couple of these in that conversation, but what are some of the common pitfalls experienced by businesses when they move to online working that you've seen with your clients?
Yeah, forgetting social events, we've already covered that. Number two
Yeah.
would be not getting one-on-ones right.
Hmm.
So one-on-ones need to be done and need to be done well. So we've got a framework for helping our managers and our leaders in the business have safe, emotionally vulnerable conversations with their team members.
Right.
And that's so important to allow someone to really open up and drop into what's going on for them at home and outside of work. And you've got to ask the
Mm.
question, because if you're just in agenda and meeting mode and only showing up to the scheduled meetings, there's no bandwidth to have that non-work chitter chatter.
Yeah.
And you would know, if you schedule a meeting in the boardroom, you'll have 5 minutes of idle chit chat time for what did you do on the weekend and all those kind of things before you sit down or before you kick off the meeting. And you don't get that when everyone shows up on time to the Zoom or the Hangout and they're straight into it.
Mm.
So having a few of those kind of prompter questions like, hey, what's going on at home right now? What's your biggest challenge in your personal life? Or in what ways can the company provide you personal support right now? What's going well in your life, and what maybe needs some help. Those kind of questions to you prompt and bring things out. That's really helpful. We have and we love and we encourage tiers on those one-on-ones. We have heaps of tiers over
Mm.
over Hangouts. Many tiers being shed, and we've actually made that a culture in our team, and we're proud of it
Yeah.
because we know that without actually being able to go deep and do those shares, then it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And so, aside from that, that's a very kind of structured thing to do with the different people that are in the business. We also have, you mentioned like water cooler chat. We also have a water cooler chat room in Hangouts chat, and you could do this in Slack or whatever else you're using. So that
Mm.
water cooler is a place for people to share their wins. Is a place for people to
Okay.
share their snaps from the weekend where they went, although they're not very, going very far right now. They can share, hey, I just reached
From
this
the
level
bedroom
of
to
this
the
game.
living room.
Totally, yeah. It's but that's the place where anything goes, and it can just really be chit chat, or hey, look, I saw this cool meme, and I want to share it with the team. So that's important because it's like a safe space where you're not going to flood the work channels with junk,
Yeah.
and you're not going to interrupt. Everyone has like notifications muted for that channel, so you're not going to get pinged by it. But when you've got a couple of minutes between customer calls or between emails and you want to, go for a browse, then, you jump into the water cooler and there's always plenty of junk in there.
Yeah. Awesome. What are some of the key things that you've learned with working with a remote team with your guys?
I think healthy space is really important. I've been on and off working from home / working from an office close to home for nearly 10 years now. And what I've found is, having a healthy workspace is excellent, but you need
Mm.
to get outside for 15 minutes a day. Absolutely
Yeah.
mandatory. If you're not doing
Yeah.
that, then cabin fever sets in and just goes crazy. It's
Yeah.
it's right now pretty challenging because my partner is also working from home, and usually one of us will spend half the day out of the house, either at a
Right.
cafe or at a co-working
Yeah.
space down the road. But right now we're stuck inside, and for someone who I would consider myself seasoned working at home, we're having challenges with that, and so I can only imagine the challenges that are coming up for everyone else. And so polarity, space, distance is a really important thing. If you're getting outside for at least 15 minutes a day, that's really good.
Mhm.
And all the basics like having a dedicated workspace and whatnot, and having good chair and ergonomics and all of those kind of things. That's all important.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I worry for everyone who's kind of jumping into the next 6 months, only because I know I'm struggling as well. There's
Yeah.
certainly challenges coming up with it.
Yeah, it is interesting because it's quite funny. Like we actually had a period of lockdown. We came back from a trip on this,
Wow.
and it was like that. I don't feel I'm getting out that much at the moment when you know that you can't go out and you can't go and do the things you normally do. I'm so sick of doing the walks
Yes.
I'm doing at the moment in the
Yeah.
morning. Like I want to get back to the happy places and stuff. And it's actually, like you say, for a seasoned person, working from home, this is hard.
Yeah.
So for anybody doing this for the first time, I think there's an initial novelty for
Yeah.
people, while this is all kind of new for them when they've maybe been banging on about getting remote working access for years and now we've got it.
Mm.
But I think now things are starting to kind of settle down and we know we might be doing this for a little while.
I think like
There's just,
some of the traps that come to mind, when I first started working from home is, like the some days where you open your laptop in bed and you sleep all day and work in bed. You don't want to do that.
yeah,
Some of the other traps for really new players would be like, keeping your work profile open on your computer. One of the things that you can do is if you're on a Mac or a PC or a Chromebook or whatever, set up one profile for your personal stuff and one profile for your work stuff. And so
yeah, that's what
after
I do.
5 or 6 p.m. or whenever you finish, you sign out of that stuff. Even if it's just a different Chrome browser profile, you
Yeah.
sign out of that work profile and you sign into your personal profile. Another basic one is, devices. Like I've taken social and everything off all of my devices.
I got
So
personal one, work one.
yeah, totally. Even on Facebook, there's a Chrome plugin called Facebook Newsfeed Killer, and that switches off
Okay.
the newsfeed, so you can still get your notifications, still connect with everyone, but you won't be able to scroll the newsfeed. So I've been newsfeed free for about 5 years. That
Okay.
just helps your mental health so much.
Especially at the
And other
moment.
things. Totally, like especially at the moment. Totally, other things like having an hour or two of no screen time before bed. I mean, these are the kind of things that people say all the time. But if right now you are feeling burnout or you're feeling that level of anxiety rising, and or you're watching too much of the news, like this is what you got to do. Just get away from the
Yeah.
screen, get away from the social, call a friend, pick up the phone, do it the old school way, and spend some time doing something other than being consumed by the tech. Because if you're spending 16 hours a day on tech, then you'll very, very quickly, start to run into that burnout, anxiety, ADD mode, and it's not fun. It's not a good place.
Totally. I've been actually working on that for about the last 8 months. So that's why the second device just runs off my Wi-Fi. It's not, I haven't got a phone, so it's not an expensive thing to do,
So,
but it's been a very interesting exercise actually separating out my work life and my personal life online.
yeah,
And it's taking a long time to do it. And it's actually something that has been very hard for me discipline wise to do. But I sleep a lot better. I
yeah,
don't feel stress. I'm a lot more productive, and it's easier for me to work in those sort of buckets of time, because I'm not kind of worried all the time about things pinging and stuff like that. And it's very difficult. I think it's different, for business owners versus somebody who's in a corporate situation where that's corporate culture is that's how they operate. But we're
yeah.
talking
Good.
to business owners here. Guys, we have a choice about how we
Yes.
do this, and I think particularly if I think working from home is going to open up so many opportunities for business owners. I think, in terms of allowing your team a bit more flexibility about where they work and when they work, and also being able to, if you can get this process right with your team that and that you can go and touch whenever you want to, you can expand your team overseas and whatever to, make the most of some of those opportunities as well. So I think it's rather than it being something that's been forced upon us and is a pain in the butt right now, I think if we can look at the positives and look at this as an opportunity to think about how are we going to make this work and what tools are going to work best for us, and actually setting those processes up right,
Mm.
it's a springboard for so much else, I think.
Yeah.
So,
It's I think like anything, this is a skill and a muscle that can be developed.
mm,
If you can develop the skill of working in a healthy way from whatever location you're in, you get to choose where you
yeah,
want to work and how you want to work. What I do know is that transitioning a business to remote work opens up your talent pool to the world.
mm,
We hire a lot of staff in the Philippines for our team. That's one of the things that we're known for and we're really good at. A long time ago, I was considering putting in an office in place in one of the cities. And a friend of mine who also runs a remote team, he's got 40, 50 staff all working from home or working remotely. He said to me, well, Pete, did you know there's 100 million people in the Philippines? And if you put an office in one city of 1 million people, you're restricting your talent pool to 1% of the population. And I went, wow, isn't that
Wow.
amazing?
That is an
And so,
interesting thing when you think about it.
opening up your team and your talent pool is just phenomenal, but also opening up what customers you can service. 5, 6 years ago, we were a very Sydney-based company. We were servicing Sydney businesses. And if someone called from Melbourne or from Brisbane, we were like, oh, we can kind of service you, but, we might not be able to service you really well. And when we kind of flipped that switch in our thinking, in opening up to being able to service businesses remotely and deliver our service remotely, what that allowed us to do was expand to, we're like #1 Google partner in Australia now, because we said, right, we're going to service any business, doesn't matter where you are, but we're going to be remote first. And yeah, sure, we lost some business because of that. And I had to shut down all of our Sydney customers, which was $100,000 a year that I had to switch off. But what that enabled us to do was kind of grow to the next level. So, for anyone who's going through challenges right now or feeling the pain of not being able to operate in the way that they've operated in the past, you now have the potential opportunity to look at new ways of doing business, not just in who you hire, but also in how you deliver as well. And I think that's pretty exciting.
Totally. Okay, so you've got some resources to share with us, haven't you?
I got a bunch. Yeah. Look, the best way to
Go.
get connected with us is to head to petermoriarty.tv. I do live streams. I'm doing a lot at the moment, just sharing as much as we know about running remote teams. We don't have much to sell off the back of it, to be completely honest. Like, we're a technology company, but we just happen to have been working remotely for 5 years. So we're going full open book and sharing absolutely everything that we know. Also, we have a remote work checklist. So that's on our website. Head to itgenius.com to pick that up. That's just an ebook. So you can grab the checklist there. If you want to have a consult or a chat to our team, of course, you can get in touch. And for those that want to do a little bit more, over the next 8 weeks, we've got a program that we're running, which is called the Remote Work Playbook. And that is basically going deep into each different area of business that you have to have set up for running remotely. From technology to hiring and building a team. If you want to build a team in the Philippines, we just did an hour-and-a-half webinar on that this week, showing you exactly how to do it, where we hire, how we hire, and everything. And then we're going to go deep into things like the culture, doing the one-on-ones, all the processes and frameworks for that. We're just basically sharing what we're doing. So we're doing that to our customers. And so you'll need to become a customer for that. Very inexpensive to become a part of our basic plan. And you'll get access to that. But if you're just interested in getting a taster and sharing what we're doing, jump on the live streams on petermoriarty.tv. There is heaps of stuff there and heaps of resources that we're sharing to help as much as possible.
Awesome. I will put some links when we've finished here.
That was my interview with Karen, and we covered all that you need to know about what technology is required for you to get set up. Now, if you're interested in what are the right apps for me to use? Should I use Asana or Trello or Podio, or should I be using Basecamp? Should I be using Dialpad or something else, or should I be working with different applications, and how do I get them all to talk to each other? That's the kind of thing that we can help with. So please be sure to reach out to our team. There are links below to get in touch with our team for us to help out. Now, many customers and our audience have been interested in how they can get access to the Remote Work Playbook. As I said, that's the 8-week online series that we're running. It's a series of 8 webinars, private, just for our customers. And I wanted to show you actually what that looks like. And so this is our community that you get access to once you're a customer of ours. And inside that community, we have all of the webinar recordings of the webinars that we've done for the last 2 years. So you can see here, we've got heaps of training. Every month we do a training for our customers. Sometimes it's on, you can see their personal productivity, how to use Google Drive and FileStream, what are our favorite Chrome extensions, basically everything to do with the Google ecosystem. And then we expand it out to running your business as well using cloud tools. So whether that's using Asana, whether that's using Dialpad or Hive or any of the other tools that we recommend, we show you how to do all of that. Now, the first 2 weeks of the Remote Work Playbook have been over the last 2 weeks, and we've actually shared some pretty amazing stuff in here. In last week's one, which is how to hire and onboard and grow a remote team, we actually shared, you can see here, literally our interview questions that we ask when we hire, job ads, what's the Google form that we use when we're having applicants put in their application with us. So we're literally going, when I say we're going open book, we're literally going open book and sharing just absolutely everything that there is to know about how we run our business business remotely. So that's where we've started. What is coming up over the next few weeks are things like managing team and culture. How do you do your one-on-ones remotely? How do you make sure that you're productive at home? How do you make sure your team are productive at home? How do you know they're even working? All of these things that we've sorted out and worked out how to do over many years of running remotely. We're sharing all of those things with you. So if you're interested in that, you definitely want to jump on the playbook. Our business subscription to be a part of being a customer of IT Genius starts at like $80 a month, and that's Australian dollars. So if you're outside Australia, even better. So absolute no-brainer for you to jump onto that. Have a chat to our team if you're interested. Otherwise, check out our website and check out the rest of the videos that we have online. Until next time, I will see you soon, but thank you so much for joining in, and we have more awesome videos coming up this week. Until next time, see you soon. Cheers.